This is Intro to Java, week 5. Just gonna open Apache NetBeans. And in this class, in this lab, we were supposed to make a program that randomly selects between 4 other number-based programs. Just wait for it to open. Go to numbers. So in this one, I had 4 programs that were number based. So there were numbers, methods, math methods that I had to perform inside of the program. And the 4 of the programs were utilizing each of those types of operations that we can do inside of Java. So the first one I want to open is dice. And this one, it utilizes the random integer. So in this one, you were supposed to, so random is just picking a random number, right? But with Java or any type of program, you're supposed to input the maximum number and the lowest number, and the computer will decide which number will be at random. So for this one, it's between numbers 1 and 6 because the dice has 6 sides. It goes from 1 to 6. So if you were rolling dice, just throwing it on the ground, a random number will pop up between 1 and 6. And then so this program will just give you a list of how many numbers. I think it's over like 20 numbers to give it to you. 100 random rolls of dice. So let's run the program to see how it works. Just gonna build and debug it. I'll come back to it. So the next one I had to do was marbles. And so in this one, it's more about division. So it would just be like a set of marbles, and you would just input the number that you have, and there's the number of children that there are, and then it would divide up how many marbles you would give to each child. So in this one, it's almost like my previous projects where you would have to have like some type of formula or a function that you would use, and each variable represent x or y. So in this one, you have the number of marbles, number of children, and what you end up with, which is like the product or the division number, is marbles per child. So it takes the integer, which is the number of marbles. So say you had like 2 and you had 1 child. So I guess you would 1 marble per child, and then you have how many left over. And it would just be 1 left over. So let's run the program. Let's run this one so it should work. Select main class. And it should ask me how many marbles I want to put. Let's just make it simple. Let's just say it's 10. Number of children, we have 5, so they should at least get 2. And in the end, it says, give each child 2 marbles. You will have 0 marbles left over. So let's say we were going to do... Let's say we wanted to do a number where there's going to be something left over. Let's still do 10. And instead of 5, we'll do... let's do 7. Right. So for this one, there would be 1 child. Each child would have 1 marble, and there'll be 3 left over. So it's basically just basic division, and then just like we all learn division, and there's always like a remainder number. And so this one gives you the division number and then whatever is remaining left over. But there's a limit to this program, like a glass ceiling. So if we had like more children than marbles, it would just give 0, because again, it can only give out a double, instead of like an integer instead of a float. So a float is a decimal number. So there are specific data types for decimal number in Java. And for this one, it's specifically integers, and integers are basically whole numbers, anything between 1, 2, 3, and up into infinity. If it doesn't have a decimal behind it, it's not. It's an integer. If it does, then it's not. And so let's try to run the program where we have more children than marbles. So let's do 10 again, and let's say we have 11 children. You're gonna have 0, and then you're gonna have 10 left over because again, it's going to be you're gonna have 10, and if you can't give less than one marble to a child, like half of a marble to a child. So let's move on to the next program, and we have the math methods. And for this one, this just displays all the different operations that you can do in Java. So first let's go over the variables. So we have integers. In this one, we use integers. A is 100, B -50, C 3, and we have doubles. Again, doubles and floats are decimal numbers, but a double is smaller than a float. So a double, X is 25.0, Y is 3.0, and Z is 4.0. And another thing is that doubles and floats don't have to be, they can be integers because they are larger data types, so it can be 0.0. But it just has to be, I think there's a specific number that it can reach up to. And if it's up to that larger number, you have to use a float. And then let's go over what it's going to put out for us. So it's going to give us a multiplication. It's going to give us the cube root of a number, the exponents. It's going to give us, what is this? Hypont. Logarithms, minimum, maximum, random, square root, all the different types of math methods. Let's run the program. Okay. So it's giving us the absolute value of variable b, which is -50, and the absolute values are just the integer of. And then the cube root of x. X is 25, 2.9 repeated or whatever it is the cube root. Exponent y, it's going to give us, what is it, 3 to the e power. And then you have hypot, yz, logarithms, logarithm to the 10th power, minimum, maximum, a and b, between a and b, 10 and -50, 100 is the maximum, minimum, a between a and b, which one's the minimum? It should be, it should have been 10, -50, but it's fine. Power, you take a and put it to the power of c, which is 10, 100, 1 million. Then you have a random number, and so on and so forth. Let's move on to the next one. So the menu number is, this is what we're going to go over at the end. Let's go over number format. So for in this one, it's going to give us, it's supposed to give us basically like a currency. Let's run this one. So we put in that the allowance is $5 and the cost of the paintball gun is how much? $69.65. Let's change that to a different number. Let's run it again. Okay, so let's move on to the menu. So in the menu, we were supposed to, so of all the programs that I just went over, the menu is supposed to display all the different programs, but at a random variation. Like it's not supposed to be the user selects which one they want to see. It would just give you whichever one it decides. So in the beginning, I went through. At first thing I had to do was how I wanted the menu to be displayed. So all menus have to have a title, and then there's like a space in between, and then the list of options that you have, and then there's supposed to be an output of what you selected. So we have welcome to the Java numbers program generator, blank space. Option 0 is back to main menu. Option 1 is toss the marbles. Option 2 is math in Java. Option 3 is working with numbers. Option 4 is throw the dice. And option 5 is exit the program. Two of them aren't really programs, it's just like a random one. Like if you were doing a random program, it would be like unexpected to have it exit on its own and to go back to the main menu because it's almost like a little game. So then we go back up to the top, and we had to import the utility scanner, which is taking user input from the keyboard, and then we also had to import the random thread. So let's go through each one. So if we scroll down to the bottom and we look at each of the separate options, each of the separate options have its own case, and it's almost like we think of the program as like a loop. And once it hits a certain integer that the the random, like if we have a random number between 0 and 5 and the computer decided to pick 3, then 3 corresponds with the working number program, and then it would just run that program. So let's go back to the top and see how I displayed each case. So case 0 should be the program selected option 0 back to main menu, and it should just break. It shouldn't display anything, nothing's gonna happen. It's just gonna loop around and go back to the main menu. Case 1, where it tosses the marbles, instead of referencing the marbles class, I just copied and pasted because it's all in one. It's actually in two, basically. So there's the static and then the public static void. When I was going over it with the tutor, he explained that if I had two separate methods in my program, it would be harder for me to call them because then you have to call every single one. And if you had a class where you only had one method, then it would be much easier. So because I have two, I just had to copy and paste the most important pieces and then import the util scanner. So let's go to menu number. And then so I printed out the whole thing. I didn't really need it basically when I realized it in the end, because the first thing I did was to make all of the smaller programs and then make the menu. That would be much easier just to do it at the end. But then I realized it's not like I did it for nothing. I can still see how it runs alone and how it runs within the program. So let's look at the format of the marbles. We have to import the util scanner, we have to introduce the scanner as a variable, and then we have the program. So let's look at the menu number. I had to import util scanner. I had to introduce it as right here. I had to introduce it as a variable, and then I printed it. So that's for tossing the marbles. So case 2, if the program decided random number between 0 and 5, 2, it would go through program selected 2, working with numbers. And for this one, instead of printing whatever I typed in that class, I called in the method that I specifically wanted done. So I think I mixed it up when I explained it in the beginning. So if a program that I wrote before has one method, I can copy and paste the method in each case. But if it has more than one method, I have to call in the specific method that I'm looking for. So for case 2, the number format has more than one method. Let's go to the number format, and it does. So it has the static, it has the public static void, it has 1, 2, 3 different ones. And so if I wanted to call to run this program, I had to call one of the methods. One of the methods that I called was print my allowance. Let's go to main number and then look through. And I had to put the name of the class dot the or period the method with parentheses with nothing inside and then break. That way it will run the program as it is and then it would just break. So let's go to case 3. If the random number was 3, it will run math in Java, which we just went over. It's all the different math operations that can be done in Java. We already know what it looks like. And then if we look at the math methods, it only has one. The math method, it only has one method within the whole class. So I just copy and paste it. There was nothing in it. It didn't have any imports. I didn't have to add anything. It was just a simple program. So this one was just as simple. And each and every case, if we look above, it has a break. If I didn't put the break, it would just move on to the next, the next case, the next integer, which we don't want because it wouldn't be really random. It would be, the only thing that would be random is what case it starts at, but it will always end at 0. It would just, if you start at 1, it would go to 2, 3, 4, and then 0. And it would keep going and displaying all of them. But by breaking it, it would just display the code. It would run it, and then it would stop. I think the next one we have is case 4, which is the program selected through the dice. For this one, because it had multiple methods, I had to call the class, then call the method with parentheses. If we look at the dice class, it has 1, 2. And so if we go back to method, to menu number, the last one that we have is exit the program. So for what I did, the last case that I did, it always breaks on its own. It's already it's not gonna go back to the main menu. It's just gonna stop, because there's no other integer after that. There's no other case. Because of the break, it's just gonna stop right there. So for this one, it's just going to end and display program selected to exit the program. Goodbye. And so the last component that I needed was, even though it says user selected, I wanted to write the menu starting out with as if I'm making a regular menu. And then taking each program that I made and inputting it into each option. And then by the end of it, I want the program to look at each option as basically an integer between 0 and 5, and then just pick a random number. If the number is 3, it corresponds to, what is 3? 3 is working with numbers. If it's 2, it's math in Java. So that's what I was trying to do. So if we look down here, like in the beginning, I had to call in the concurrent thread local random, and I had to pull it in, and then it's up here too, but that's not important actually. It's all the way here at the bottom. So selection equals, it doesn't equal user selected. It equals thread local random between the next integer of 0 through 5 plus 1. And then it will return the selection. So it will print out the menu display options. It will select an option for you. It will be at random. Whichever number the program selects between whichever number corresponds to a program, and let's just run it to see how it works. This one was at random. So the first one that we got was you selected program selected option 5 through the dice. Here are 100 rolls of dice. Let's run it one more time. Number of marbles, that's the next one. So let's do 13, children 3, 4, 1 remaining. Let's run it one more time. Maybe it will give us something that we didn't run before. The dice again. So again, random isn't always something you didn't get. It can be 2, 3 times. It's random. So if it gives you the same program 3 times in a row, then it's just a coincidence. it's not a big deal. Just keep running it until you get a code that you didn't receive or an option that you didn't get. And the whole point of this was to learn what the math methods are, the random integers, and how to utilize that in different scenarios.